The opening scene shows a radio podcast, and the presenter is a famous DJ by the name DJ Mohabbat. He speaks about love, how it makes one vulnerable, and how society perceives men who are vulnerable to love. He announces his concert titled Almost Love, which will be happening during the Holi festival and will be lasting for 48 hours. The day brightens and the society awakes, kids leaving for school, and the youths leaving for the day's hustle. DJ Mohabbat is quite popular among these sets of people. They listen expectantly to the podcast, and the excitement on their faces is simply overwhelming as they look forward to a week from now when the concert will be held. Harmeet is an upcoming DJ and a composer whose career is doing fairly well. He plays at a nightclub somewhere in London, alongside an amazing singer named Sapna. Together they drive the crowd crazy as they dance to the tune of the music the duo is producing. After the party, Sapna introduces her friend Aisha to him. Aisha is a huge fan, and she has a crush on this quiet artist who shies away from the world. She invites him to an after-party at her place, but he turns down her request. However, she isn't one to give up easily. She claims she left her phone inside and she'd like to use his to take a photo of them so she can send it to her number. A subtle method to acquire his number which he won't be able to turn down. In Dalhousie, Amrita is a regular schoolgirl living with her prominent and traditional Hindu family, especially her mother, who believes phones ruin young girls in society. She's in love with a resident by the name of Yaqub. Immediately the school bell rings, signifying the end of the day's class. She speedily runs out of her class to meet Yaqub, who's waiting for her. She changes from her uniform to a burqa, which is typically worn by Muslim girls. Yaqub makes the recording while she dances to the tune of DJ Mohabbat's song, and then begins questioning the identity of this mystery DJ. She introduces herself as Saloni Ami and continues with her vlog. The following day, Amrita leaves for school after bidding her granny goodbye. Her mother tells her younger brother to accompany her to the bus. On their way, Yaqub sees an opportunity to begin her conversation and invites her to DJ Mohabbat's concert. Her little brother runs back home to call their elder brothers. Amrita informs Yaqub that her brothers will trash him if they should find him talking to her, and just as she's still telling him, he sees her brothers running in their direction. Amrita simply walks into the school bus as though nothing is happening while Yaqub takes to his heels. Her brothers chase him but can't catch him, so they stop by his father's store. They warn the old man to keep his son within his limit and be grateful that they let them live in their community. Over in London, Harmeet composed another beautiful song. He plays it to the hearing of a man who proposes a deal to him. He claims music producers get so much recognition, and the only way they can make Harmeet's music turn into an anthem on the streets of London is if they swap roles. He'll become the composer while Harmeet will be the producer. He suggests that Harmeet sell the song to him if he wants to see his song make waves. The night comes, and he's got a performance with Sapna in town. The show is a hit, and before the music even starts, everyone is already going crazy. Aisha is present at the show. She complains to Sapna that Harmeet has been ignoring her texts. He's turning her down when no one has ever done such before. The ladies gossip and Sapna suggests he might just be gay because he's the only one who hasn't hit on her so far, unlike the other producers, singers, and others. Aisha decides to take things into her own hands. She walks over to where Harmeet is eating some lentils and rice prepared by the club owner's mother. The owner of the club where he usually performs has become like a brother to him, and not just a boss. Harmeet refuses to give her the kind of response she wants, so she walks away in frustration. She complains to Sapna and reveals she's going to decode Harmeet and find out how to get to him. Sapna rebukes her. She's not going to let her friend do such a thing. Instead, they're going to find her a nice, straight guy who loves butter chicken and not some bland lentils. In Dalhousie, Yaqub is selling some video cassettes to some schoolgirls at a park close to their school. The security van drives in their direction, and the girls take off immediately. They take the keys to his scooter and drag him into the vehicle. DJ Mohabbat continues giving stories and love-related tips to his followers. One day Harmeet walks into an Indian radio station where DJ Mohabbat will be performing live. He walks towards him and confesses his admiration for DJ Mohabbat. He reveals he's a huge fan of the DJ's music, especially the way he talks about love. The DJ grants him an audience and even offers to hear his music, but then, he thinks Harmeet looks very familiar. Harmeet has not met with him before, so he disagrees with him, but DJ Mohabbat is certain he has seen the boy's face before. He suddenly remembers the video he saw on social media, the one where a girl covers her face, and he questions his identity. He's sure this person standing before him is Yaqub, but Harmeet denies it. He has been wanting to go to India, and he's not even on social media. DJ Mohabbat shows him Amrita's video and forwards it to the part where Yaqub is speaking. Harmeet is utterly speechless. The guy on the video looks so much like him. Quite strange. At the police station, the officers flog Jakub, demanding he explain why he's been harassing Mr. Suri's daughter. They received a complaint from Amrita's brother, hence the reason for flogging him. The inspector in charge warns him to stay away from Amrita and drop the idea of taking her to a concert with him. He dismisses Jakub, but refuses to give his scooter to him with a promise to drop it at his house within a month if he behaves himself. After he lets the boy go, he calls Jakub's father, Abrar, and tells him to be mindful of how close he gets with Mr. Suri's oldest son. It seems the inspector has some sort of relationship with Jakub's father, and he wouldn't want harm to come to them. At home, Amrita is being interrogated by her brothers, who want to know her relationship with Jakub. Her younger brother compounds the matter by revealing Jakub's plan to take her to the concert, but she doesn't see what the big deal is. Her mother thinks it's all a ploy to have her locked up in a veil. She yells at Amrita to do as her brother says and quit complaining. They prompt her to know her response to Jakub's intention when he requested to take her to the concert. Amrita looks unperturbed as she informs them that Jakub is worth something if he can whisk her away from the house under their watch. Her eldest brother asks her to go inside her room. He locks her up and reveals that she won't be going to school until after Holi. However, she can listen to all the songs she wants. This might just be the beginning of a love story between a Hindu girl and a Muslim boy which her family cannot control. Meanwhile, at the radio station, DJ Mohabbat thinks Harmeet's music is cool, but it's not embodying himself. He gives the young DJ a hint suggesting that his music has to embody his life, future, and who he is. He reveals that the Harmeet in that video is hanging between his childhood and his youth, which might just screw him up. The next day, Jakub waits for Amrita at the bus stop, but she's nowhere in sight, and even her friends have no idea about her whereabouts. He decides to check for her at her father's house. The confidence. He looks around her room and doesn't find her, so he searches outside and finds her grandmother there. He converses with her a little, and the old lady finds him quite interesting. She directs him to where he'll find Amrita at his request. He follows the directions and finds her locked up in her room. Amrita is surprised to see him in her house. He informs her that it's the perfect time to run off since the others have yet to wake up. She shows him where her brother kept the key. So, he frees her, and together, they steal her brother's bike, which they use to escape. It appears Amrita is even more strong-headed than Jakub, agreeing to run away with a young man until after Holi. Just amazing. In the evening, Harmeet is having a show at a bar in town. Aisha drinks herself into a stupor while watching him play as her friend and co-singer drives everyone crazy. After stepping out to tell her driver to take her car home, she walks right to the middle of the club and throws up there. A perfect way to get Harmeet's attention. Well, it all feels like a plot between Sapna and Aisha. Sapna disappears and she's unreachable no matter how many times Harmeet tries to reach her. The club owner approaches where Aisha is throwing up. He's not pleased that Sapna disappeared even though she saw her friend throwing up in the crowd. They can't just abandon her in the ladies' room, so they take her with them. While on the ride, the club owner questions if Harmeet has anything going on between himself and Aisha. He advises Harmeet to focus on his music and not get carried away with spoiled girls like Aisha, who have rich fathers they can ride on. Aisha suddenly gains consciousness and rebukes the club, accusing him of manipulating Harmeet. Back in India, Amrita discovers that Jakub has her brother's wallet when they stop to purchase some noodles. She smiles, revealing that he always carries around her picture with him. Jakub pays for their purchase with her brother's money and accidentally drops the wallet on the floor. They continue their journey and stop by the wood to do a short video for social media, where she reveals that Jakub successfully pulled off a difficult feat. I wonder what her brother's reaction will be when they see this video. At home, her family watched the new video uploaded by Jakub. Her mother calls the burqa-clad girl shameless, not knowing it's her daughter. She's in shock upon hearing her son reveal to her that Amrita is the one speaking. Meanwhile, the club owner drops Aisha and Harmeet off, and he is now saddled with the responsibility of taking care of Aisha. He takes her to his house and goes on to make a call with his mother, who is asking him to find a woman. Aisha hears him talking to a woman. She leaves the room and spies on who he's speaking to. She listens to him confess to his mother about how self-conscious he is when he performs. Amrita and Jakub stop by a gas station to purchase some items and refill the bike. He soon discovers that he has misplaced the wallet and they have no cash to pay for his purchase. Jakub decides to put the bike up for a mortgage. He gets some cash and now they'll have to walk the rest of the way. The both of them continue walking down the road, and since Amrita doesn't have an ID, they couldn't get a hotel to pass the night. Thankfully, they see an empty cabin, so they pass the night there. The next morning, they continue their walk down the path, hoping it'll lead them somewhere. Harmeet wakes up to the loud buzz of his alarm. He wakes Aisha up and prepares to leave for work. Aisha pretends like she's just recovering. She requests to spend some more time at his place while he goes off to work. He grants her permission and requests she call her driver to come pick her up. Immediately after he leaves, Aisha gets off the bed and goes to check out his stuff. She pulls out one of his big hoodies and puts it on. She walks outside the house smiling as she takes a look around the environment. She sees some neighbors staring at her with questions in their eyes, and she quickly greets them, introducing herself as Harmeet's girlfriend. It looks like love is Aisha's weakness, and breaking in is her compulsion. Let's hope she'll be able to accept the indifference of her beloved, just like DJ Mohabbat says on his podcast. Indeed, she called her driver, but not to take her home. He takes her shopping still in Harmeet's clothes, and when she's done, he drops her back at his place. Later in the day, Harmeet is heading home when the club owner calls out to him. He reveals that Aisha is at his place because she's having a headache. The club owner believes there's more to that headache story, however. He requests to take Harmeet out for a drink so they can talk some more. Yaqub and Amrita, who have been walking through the woods for hours, finally see a house. They approach it, and to their surprise, it's empty but locked with a huge padlock. Well, they need a house to stay in until Holi, so he goes to get some rock to break the lock. Upon getting back, he finds Amrita picking the lock with her hairpin. What an innocent crook. He teases her, and together they get into the house and soon start preparing some noodles they can eat. Back home, Mr. Suri complains at the police station. He mentions every detail, including his son's stolen bike and Amrita's sudden disappearance. The police begin an investigation, and soon, they locate the noodle store where the duo had stopped to purchase noodles. They find the wallet on the floor and return it to the owner. Judging from where it's found, the officer concludes the two of them must have gone to either of the two towns nearby. At night, the inspector arrives at Abrar's DVD store and finds the old man closing up for the day. They exchange pleasantries. Seeing that the inspector is asking after his son, Abrar wonders what Yaqub must have done this time. The club owner takes Harmeet to a lonely club pub to have a word with him. He reveals that Sapna has been fired because she's asking for too much money. He further reveals that Sapna is not his star, but Harmeet. He wants Harmeet to chase after his ambitions instead of being comfortable with where he is currently. Harmeet reveals that he wants to go play in India, but he's scared that they might not accept him, and people might call him a fake daisy. The club owner encourages him to dump those thoughts, and confesses that he's willing to take him to India. But Harmeet refuses. He says that he's having a family issue, and it'll be easier for him to go to India once someone picks up his songs, and they become hits. The club owner looks concerned, so he urges Harmeet to share this family issue with him so he can focus on his music. He even offers Harmeet to stay at his house so his mother can make lentils and rice for him every day, and all he'll have to do is focus on his music. Meanwhile, Amrita turns on the TV and sees her family making a fuss about her disappearance on the news. Her father makes claims that Yaqub has abducted her and questions if a love jihad has struck again. Yaqub joins her and asks if she wants to go back home. He probably doesn't want the ruckus to escalate, but rebellious Amrita is not ready to return home just yet. With 5 more days to go, they need something to keep them busy. They take an alcoholic drink they found in the house and decide to try it out. Afterward, Amrita paints his face like a lady and styles his hair. Yaqub allows her to do what she wants and even dances while she records. Everything seems to be going on just fine with them, and they are having so much fun. However, her family is not relenting in searching for her. Along with the officers, they storm the place where Yaqub had put her eldest brother's bike on a mortgage. His bike is retrieved, and he shows the officer and his other brother the video uploaded online by the duo. From the video, he can tell where the two are located. It's game over for Yaqub and Amrita. Harmeet returns home to find Aisha's driver outside. He steps into his apartment, and he's left in wonder seeing a curtain and even a meal served on the table. His neighbor Zito approaches him and greets Harmeet, who asks about the person responsible for the sudden change in his apartment. Zito reveals it's his girlfriend, but Harmeet is even more confused because he doesn't have one. He walks into the kitchen to find Aisha holding onto her bleeding finger. While getting the cut treated, she tries to evoke pity and a response from him, but he's more interested in her leaving. He assists her in packing up everything and takes them to the car. Harmeet walks inside his apartment after asking her to leave, but Aisha is more stubborn than he knows. She wants to make his apartment feel like home, but he doesn't even appreciate her effort. She tells her driver to give everything to his wife and take her car home. From his window, he watches as she refuses to get in her car and goes to stand some distance away, all by herself. Harmeet walks over to her. He's scared of the way she looks at him and wants to know what she wants from him. Aisha confesses how she feels and how her feelings are driving her crazy. She cries and hugs him as the rain pours down on both of them. In Dalhousie, Amrita's family has turned the whole issue into a religious fight. She and Yaqub are watching a video of her father asking the Muslims to go back to their country when a call from his father comes in. Yaqub steps out to pick up the call. He explains that they're only going to attend a concert, after which they will return home. From the way his father sounds, he suspects they are trying to find out their location, so he hangs up. He guessed right. Amrita's brothers are listening along with the inspector, and now, he's requesting to have them tracked using their phone. Amrita calls her house telephone, and her mother picks it up. She immediately starts to rebuke her daughter for causing them shame, and Amrita hangs up before she finishes. After a minute, she calls back and requests to speak to her father. Yaqub thinks her family is making a big deal out of everything, but she agrees that it's worth making such a fuss about after their daughter ran away with a Muslim guy. She drags him so they can go have a drink and stop worrying. Amrita looks worried, and the gravity of her actions is beginning to weigh on her. In London, Harmeet is getting comfortable around Aisha. They share a drink and get talking about themselves as she shares some crazy facts about her not-so-perfect English family. She asks about the language she heard him speaking the other day when he was on call, and he claims it's German. After all, he's from Germany. Amrita and Yaqub wake up the next day to find an old couple in the house. The couple explains that they had mistaken the building for their house. Yaqub soon starts getting along with them, and the old lady reveals that he looks just like her grandson who lives in Germany with their son. Amrita is worried as they might just call her father. She takes him out to express her worry, proposing they run away. The old couple watches them as they discuss what to do. Aisha and Harmeet's relationship is growing quite well. He tells her about his parents and how his father's family had disowned him. He looks happy with her, such that he hosts a few friends and her for dinner at his place. When he calls his mother later at night, she notices his happiness, and he reveals that he has met someone. Yaqub indulges the old lady, who shows him photos of her grandson, who looks just like him. The couple tells them the story of their son Harminder, whom they had sent to Germany to study engineering, but ended up marrying a German who poisoned his mind so badly that he refused to return home. They narrate how he ended up marrying a man, leaving his son and wife who didn't care that he married a man. It's so sad that Harminder's behavior caused a rift in the family, and their children split up, dividing their property, and they had to move to the house where they are. It's so emotional how the old woman cries, wishing she could meet her grandson, whom Yaqub reminds her of. Later that night, Amrita expresses her worries to Yaqub, who listens to her complain about why families find it difficult to understand when their children seek out happiness in a way that's different from what they want. The next day, she takes off her veil, while Yaqub records her as Saloni Ami. She shares her grudge against family patterns of handling their children seeking out happiness. Harmeet goes to bed smiling and wakes up to a loud bang on his door. He gets off the bed and smiles as he watches Aisha sleep so beautifully beside him. He seems to be doing a lot of smiling lately. Let's hope it'll last longer. He opens the door only to be taken away by the police officers. Aisha's father enters the house and drags his confused daughter out. He ignores her questions about Harmeet's whereabouts and why the cops are at his residence. Will both of them be able to pay the price for their love? We'll see if they've learned anything from DJ Mohabbat's love podcasts. Yaqub and Amrita take a walk into town. She talks about her family and how much she misses her father. Yaqub suggests she calls him from the market. She decides to do this when Yaqub finds something intriguing. He walks over to properly take a look at the missing person poster on the wall with Amrita's picture on it. He quickly goes back to get Amrita so they can leave. Unfortunately, someone has seen them, so he drops his phone call and begins to follow them. Yaqub carefully leads the man to a quiet place and beats him up so they can run away without him tracing their whereabouts. They get back to the house to find the old lady in tears. She's been watching the news, and the situation at play reminds her of the Nazis' poison, which turned her son away from her. She pleads with Amrita to think carefully before following this Muslim boy to humiliate her family. Yaqub is upset. He wonders why the woman has suddenly turned into an enemy. He hands Amrita her bag so they can leave already. Harmeet gets taken to prison, and he's being charged for who is the daughter of a Pakistani billionaire. They lead him to where the other inmates are, and he walks quietly behind the officers, while the other inmates welcome him with screams and threats. Immediately he gets into his cell, and the officers leave. The inmates torture and manhandle him. Quite a painful price he's paying for Aisha's love. His parents visit him at the prison, and he explains that he's innocent, and doesn't understand why she filed a case against him. His mother cries her eyes out as she watches her son explain how he met Aisha, saying he doesn't even know whose daughter she is. While walking down the road, Amrita reveals that the situation is becoming too intense, and she considers going to the police station. She's exhausted, and they have no plan money, or purpose, aside from waiting for Holy to come. Jakub tries to make her see that her father is shedding crocodile tears, and he cares only about his reputation, not her feelings. He tries to convince her that going back now is more dangerous for him, but she's insistent that her father will listen to her and not hurt him. He laughs mockingly and bids her farewell. He intends to save himself since she has decided to go back to her family. At the prison, a kind inmate offers Harmeet some coffee and a cigarette. He advises him to toughen up as it'll become harder if he keeps hiding in his cell because he'll have to face the others in the morning. Amrita sees her father coming and runs to embrace him. She apologizes and confesses that she only wanted to go see a concert. Mr. Suri signals his sons to take the inspector away. Meanwhile, Jakub stops at a roadside stall to purchase some noodles and quickly records a video for social media. He locates the bus station, hoping to get a bus to Chandigarh. Unfortunately, the next one will be leaving within the next 30 minutes to an hour. He purchases a ticket and goes to sit on the bus when he sees some vehicles, including police vans, coming. It's time to run. He quickly takes to his heels, as he doesn't need anyone to tell him they are here for him. Amrita's eldest brother takes out the inspector's gun and shoots him down. Jakub falls to the ground, and the moments he spent with Amrita in the past few days flash before his eyes as her brother shoots more bullets into his body. 3 years later, Harmeet now smokes and has familiarized himself with the others. He receives a letter from Aisha, but refuses to read it as he shreds it into pieces. He is no longer scared of the inmates. He gets into fights, and he's now one of the torturers of new inmates. His dad and a lawyer come visiting, bearing good news that Aisha is now an adult, and she put out a statement declaring him innocent. His mother shows him the papers, and that's how he gets his freedom once again. Upon getting to the airport, he requests to go somewhere alone. Minutes later, he arrives at his former residence, and the first person he sees is Aisha. She calls out to him, but he ignores her and quickly walks into the building while she runs towards him. He refuses to allow her to explain as he sends her out, but Aisha is determined. She goes over to the window and starts explaining to him. Harmeet is angry and reminds her that she lied the moment she entered the club with her fake ID card, knowing fully well that she's underage. He's not going to let her screw with his head, but she's insistent on making things right before leaving. He lets her in, gives her a hard slap, and pushes her out. Aisha cries, pleading with him even though she thinks he's just like her father. She picks herself up and leaves the premises in her car. She cries while driving at high speed. After all, he had told her that she should drive hard and get into an accident such that her expensive airbag could not save her from expiring. Harmeet packs up his things and joins his dad at the airport. He's shocked to see on the news that Aisha got involved in an accident. He watches the news sadly, but the damage has been done already, and he can't go back now. He forges ahead with his life. That evening, DJ Mohabbat hosts another concert, and this time, he's not going to miss it. He makes his way to the venue, only to meet a shocker. A few distance away from where he's standing, there's a girl who looks exactly like Aisha. She's also having a confused look on her face because he looks exactly like Jakub. It feels as though they are imagining things at first. The two of them ignore the noise and the music the DJ is playing as they stand facing each other looking lost.